Michelangelo Buonarroti was born on March 6, 1475 in Caprice, a village in the territory of Florence. Michelangelo was a natural and promising artist since youth and is now known as the greatest Renaissance painter, competing with Leonardo da Vinci as the epitome of the Renaissance man. Michelangelo is the best documented artist of the 16th century, producing a tremendous volume of work in areas of architecture, drawing, sculpting, and poetry. Michelangelo is famous for many works in all these disciplines, most notably his frescoes in the Sistine Chapel, and his sculpture of David and Pieta, all of which will be the focus of his work in this presentation.
The work Pieta is an expressive portrayal of the Virgin Mary holding the deceased body of Jesus after his sacrifice. This sculpture is considered his first masterpiece in sculpting, completing the work in 2 years from 1498 to 1500 in Rome. This sculpture was commissioned by the Cardinal John de Villers Lagralas and was designed to adorn the chapel in the Old St. Peter's Basilica. This piece created a lot of controversy when it was first unveiled due to the youth of the Virgin Mary, which was younger than the mother of Jesus should look like. The sophistication of detail and emotion was praised by all because it had not been achieved by sculptors since the peak of classical Greek and Roman aesthetics. The intimacy of the emotions on both faces of Pieta was a start to the humanist ideals shown in Renaissance art.
Michelangelo's David was made between 1501 and 1504. It is a 17 feet tall marble statue. The sculpture depicts the biblical hero David before his battle against Goliath the giant. It was placed in the Palazzo Vecchio in 1504 and was later removed and placed in the Accademia Gallery in 1873. The David became a symbol of heroism against Florence's enemies. The David represented the strength of man. It took years to find the right artist for this project. Michelangelo made the David better than expected.
The Last Judgment is the second large fresco of the Sistine Chapel, painted between 1536 and 1541 after the completion of the ceiling on the Sistine Chapel. This fresco was commissioned by Pope Paul III. The piece stands 48 feet high and is behind the altar on the rear wall of the chapel, a large visual eye-catcher that was a tool to the Protestant Counter-Reformation. The Last Judgment is a depiction of the glory and wrath of Jesus, with an array of saints and sinners meeting their fate of heaven or hell. All the martyred saints hold a symbolic object to represent their method of death to illustrate their demise. Michelangelo included the portrait of the critic Biagio de Cesena on the tormented body of King Minos. After the restoration of the Last Judgment, the only additions that were left behind were those of Daniel da Volterra, where he included clouds and pieces of cloth to cover most of the nudity on the figures. The Last Judgment also involves the best of Renaissance technique and innovation while displaying the aspects of humanism that was very popular throughout the Renaissance period.
Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel was made between 1508 and 1512. The Sistine Chapel lies in Vatican City and is the official residence of the Pope. At first, the Pope wanted Raphael to do the ceiling, but Raphael recommended Michelangelo in exchange of painting a different art piece. Michelangelo was forced to paint the ceiling and hated the commission. Michelangelo was known as a sculptor, and the chapel was his first painting. He depicted 9 stories from the book of Genesis. The 9 scenes are the separation of light and darkness, the creation of the sun, moon, the separation of land and water, the creation of Adam, the creation of Eve, the temptation and expulsion, the sacrifice of Noah, the great flood, and the drunkenness of Noah. The ceiling included over 300 figures. It has been a mark on history and society. Michelangelo became an astounding artist in all aspects. His accomplishments exceeded the expectations of everyone. We are blessed to be able to study the Pieta, the David, the Last Judgment, and the Sistine Chapel. These are Michelangelo's greatest contributions to Western civilization and history.